Democrats' supports for the rules with campaign promises to focus on issues voters want to address, not on impeaching Trump. Which, yeah, let's see. The issues voters want. I think we saw that in Detroit this past Sunday when Bernie Sanders showed up at Cass Tech. Right there's your issues, folks. Democratic Party, wake up. There's your issues.
Yeah, folks.
There's your issues. Do something about it.
You can't hand it off again to Trump, Democratic Party.
Pelosi decided to have the vote following weeks of GOP claims that the inquiry was invalid because the chamber had not voted to formally commence the work. The rules direct House committees to continue their ongoing investigations of Trump. Democrats hope Thursday's vote will undercut GOP assertions that the process has been invalid because the chamber hadn't formally voted to start the proceedings. They note there is no constitutional provision or House rule requiring such a vote, which is true.
So, Darren, can we, if we were right now in a media room, could we fact check the claim that the Republicans are making that this is unconstitutional? Because you can.
All you got to do is look at the Constitution.
There it is. The resolution, I'm reading now from CNN, the resolution does not violate due process, nor is it constitutional. In fact, part of the resolution explicitly details the rights available to the president in the impeachment inquiry. Who was it? Molly Ivins, I believe, who said, I'll take a politician, as you call them critters, right?
Congress critters. That's Jim Hightower.
As poor as they are, and we know what Twain's explanation of the politicians was, and I think the whole batch is totally venal. But she said, I'll take one that wraps himself in the Constitution as compared to one who wraps himself in the flag.
Absolutely.
And the Constitution here is clear. It has not been violated. But the Repubs know if you make a charge that it's unconstitutional, those MAGA hats haven't got enough brain cells to find out if that's factual or not. It's just, my God, it's unconstitutional?
No. The only time Republicans reach for the Constitution is when they need toilet paper, and you can quote me on that. Let me continue. The rules lay out how the House Intelligence Committee, now leading the investigation by deposing diplomats and other officials behind closed doors, would transition to public hearings. That panel would issue a report and release transcripts of the closed-door interviews it has been conducting. The Judiciary Committee would then decide whether to recommend that the House impeach Trump. Republicans could only issue subpoenas for witnesses to appear if the committees holding the hearings approved them, in effect giving Democrats veto power. Attorneys for Trump could participate in the Judiciary Committee proceedings, but in a bid for leverage, panel chairman Gerald Nadler, Democrat of New York, would be allowed to deny specific requests by Trump representatives if the White House continued refusing to provide documents or witnesses sought by Democratic investigators. There it is, folks. Ding, 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 ding. And like I said, the two that voted against this, they need to be primaried out. Put them in the unemployment line permanently. Tell you what, let them rake leaves out in California for Trump so that there's no more forest fires.
You mean the socialist forest fires?
Yeah.
As charged by the Republicans, when in fact it was a grubby private company that failed to maintain its power lines for profit.
PG&E.
You know, that happened here, not to be off the topic. Remember the storm we had not too long ago? We had outages, thousands of people right here in the state. They had none. The same storm hit Canada. They had none based on the power line repair. They're maintained there. They're not maintained here. The non-maintenance in California, they know now, is responsible for, I can't remember the name of the ridge, but sparks came down and the fire started, and now we're millions.
It took a Pacifica affiliate off the air. Actually, it took one of the first affiliate to air our show was knocked off of the air because of that fire.
There you go.
So, there it is.
Well, speaking of fire, let's just look at the burning red-hot campaign of one Joe Biden.
Yeah, it's burning hot, all right. Is this the article from Truth Out that you're reading this from?
Yeah, it's called With Biden Floundering, Democratic Establishment Considers Clinton and Kerry. Truth Out.
Yep, and that is written by William Rivers Pitt, published on October 27th. William Rivers Pitt is a senior editor and lead columnist at Truthout. He's also got several books out right now, including a brand new one called The Mass Destruction of Iraq, Why It Is Happening and Who is Responsible.
Let's just talk for a minute about Bernie and the local, I guess, week. Was it last weekend?
It was on Sunday, this past Sunday in Detroit. Bernie spoke at Cass Tech School.
Well, am I missing?
And by the way, they've fit more people than the building was allowed to fit. I believe the capacity is 4,000, and they fit damn near 5 and turned people away at the door. This was also the same rally where Rashida Tlaib officially endorsed Sanders. Jack White from the White Stripes performed.
Right.
I wish I could have been there.
Well, I look for some coverage. I never heard how big the crowd was, which is normal. What they had, 26,000 in New York the week before. We talked about it here.
26,000 in New York and turned away 10,000 more.
Yeah, and I'm sure if there'd been a journalist of any worth, he could have commented on the people who were turned away down in Detroit. I don't know. I just couldn't get. I got a couple pictures with a few people behind Bernie. That's it.
I believe the Free Press might have been there, because I do remember seeing a Free Press article. Maybe MLive, I'm not sure. But you see anything on the local broadcast channels? No.
Well, let's go back to that red-hot campaigner, the crusty old establishment
creepy Uncle Joe.
Can I read here from, this is Truthout, okay? If the New York Times has a right of it, the Democratic establishment is beginning to sweat live bullets over the gaseous anomaly that is the third tri-presidential campaign of former Vice President Joe Biden. On Tuesday, the Times ran a hilariously titled piece, Anxious Democratic Establishment Asks, Is There Anyone Else?, in which some possible Biden alternatives were floated. Michael Bloomberg, John Kerry, and of course, it's Halloween, time for the monsters to come out of the crypt, Hillary Clinton. Way to go, Joe. A little context is in order here. On the same Tuesday, former Ukraine Ambassador William Taylor eviscerated Donald Trump's no quid pro quo defense of his Ukraine dealings during a closed-door hearing before the House Oversight Committee that included several Republicans, a fact which should muzzle the mayhem House Republicans, but probably won't. In the face of this damning turn of events, Trump decided it was high time to change the subject by letting his unvarnished racist flag fly free in the breeze. All Republicans must remember that we're witnessing here a lynching, he tweeted early that morning. An immediate detonation of outrage justly followed Trump's decision to equate his constitutionally appropriate political woes with the generational massacre of black Americans, with Elijah Cummings passing only days before Trump vomited his vile comment onto the nation's carpet. No one needs not imagination to know what this reaction would have been. So joining the chorus of condemnation that day was, no less than, our man Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. Impeachment is not lynching, he said. It's part of our Constitution, he tweeted on Tuesday afternoon. Our country has a dark, shameful history with lynching, and to even think about making this comparison is aberrant. It's despicable. It took only a few hours for Biden's own words, however, to boomerang on him. And we've seen him boomerang over and over again. A video clip of Biden describing the Clinton impeachment as a partisan lynching went viral, and he was forced to apologize again for his choice of language. We talked about his apologies on the show, Darren. Mm-hmm. We apologized for the misconception that he actually wasn't against, or was against, I should say, busing in the 60s. And it goes on. This apology, though, came just hours after he put his foot in his mouth, I don't know how many times now in a row. This wasn't the right word to use, he said, and I'm sorry about that, he tweeted that same night. Despicable, utterly predictable. Biden's Senate career spanned 45 years, and in that time it saw him take a number of praiseworthy actions that were brutally offset by a larger number of terrible actions. Salted throughout his long career are enough verbal car accidents to leave the general impression that Gaff is his middle name. In 1988, presidential campaign collapsed. His presidential campaign collapsed in the shame and disgrace of a plagiarism scandal. Does anybody remember that? My words. That should have been enough right there to end, or at least severely curtail his political career. But Biden was a senator from Delaware, and Delaware is the Valhalla for big banks, credit card companies, and other massive corporations. Here we go, Darren.
Yep, it's all about the money.
Those entities dug a campaign finance moat around Biden's Senate seat. That's why he's here today, ladies and gentlemen. Because of his corporal-venal relationship and their protection around him, that's why we even have him still speaking and putting his foot in his mouth every other day. Chasing off, these are the corporate protectors, chasing off anyone who might challenge him in a primary. So he got through those primaries. And he kept getting through. He's getting through now with corporate backing. This served to protect Biden from his own blunders, allowing him to hold his place for nearly half a century without experiencing any electoral consequences for his serial missteps. Over those years, Biden was repaid their regress with interest. After Biden's second failed run in 2008, and then in the single digits after Iowa, he was rescued from Delawarean obscurity because Barack Obama needed him on the ticket to appease white establishment voters and for money he could bring in because he has the financial industry on speed dial. This is written quite well, and there's a lot of history here. Our man Obama took a cabinet right straight from Wall Street. He took his VP right from the corporate mecca called Delaware. Because as this writer accurately lists, Biden already had financial backing from here to the Atlantic Ocean. The white establishment voters, and this is fantastic, he had the financial industry on speed dial. Somehow this long and badly damaged resume has been translated into a belief within the justice establishment circles that Joe Biden is the only candidate who can defeat Donald Trump in 2020. We lost all of our cow feces on the last Republican comment. We don't have anything for this, but the one I just read deserves it. That he is the only candidate. He's one of the only candidates who hasn't got a chance. Hasn't got a chance. My words again. Now, as his third and presumably last run for the Oval Office sputters visibly, that belief is being sorely tested. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to let Darren enter in at this point. I've got to ask you, if we miss on the impeachment, what confidence you have right now that we're not going to have 2016 deja vu, a race which you predicted, which you warned people, and I think some other astute political thinkers did the same. There's predictions he's going to win by a large margin. He is in the orange monkey. That's what I'm hearing. And if we strike one on the impeachment, and we don't have a pitch to throw other than some watered-down corporate sweetheart, we're in big trouble.
We've talked about this. We'll keep talking about this.
Is Hillary
there's only
going
one choice
to pop up? Is Biden such warm leftovers that it's not going to go? Are we literally?
Apparently, I don't know. There's been some polling out that suggests that Tulsi Gabbard is polling more than Kamala Harris is.
Oh, yeah. Well, Kamala Harris is blaming the fact that she's a black woman on her campaign woes. Right. Now, she started out, I remember the very first debate. She jumped right into
because she's a corporatist.
Yeah. No, well, that's not in her warped explanation.
God. Yeah.
No, listen, we're ready for a war with wimps, with political leftover establishment proven to be. Could you have any more proof of failed campaign success than Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Plagiarism 1 year. Is there anybody who you could pull out of the Democratic warehouse that's more frail than Joe Biden? And that's who the establishment's putting money on. Who the fleas are going to jump to next? I don't know. They're not going to go for Tulsi.
Yeah.
They're sure to hell ain't going to go for Bernie Sanders.
As a matter of fact, I've got this story. This is from Justine Coleman writing for The Hill. It looks like it's been updated as of Thursday. Take a good listen to this, folks. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, West Virginia, said he would not back Senator Bernie Sanders, Independent Vermont, in a 2020 presidential matchup against Donald Trump. Manchin told Fox Propaganda Channel he would absolutely not support Sanders' agenda, calling it, quote, not practical where I come from, end of quote.
We know where you come from.
Yeah. When Fox Propaganda's Neil Cavuto asked whom Manchin would vote for if the Vermont Progressive ended up becoming the Democratic presidential nominee, Manchin responded, quote, well, it wouldn't be Bernie, end of quote. Cavuto then pressed the West Virginia senator on if he'd vote for Trump. Manchin declined to offer a specific response, stating, quote, "Let's just say I'm going to make decisions based on what's best for my country and my state," end of quote.